you can become a guy who is so profitable on these maintenance calls that we don't have a choice but to give you the other calls. When you present options and just kind of slide them forward and don't actually ask the person to buy, you don't really get the opportunity for objections. Because the last thing you ever want to do is make a homeowner feel icky by something you said that sounded natural to us but felt like a sleazy sales tactic to her.
Hey guys, before you jump into this replay, I just want to give you a quick note on how to use it. Do not just press play and move on. Close everything on your browser. If you have a sales leader, a service manager, someone responsible for training your team, watch this with them. Pause it when something stands out. Talk through how it applies to your team. Then pick just one idea from this session and implement it right away. Not 5, not all of them, just one. These AMAs are meant to help you make better decisions and execute better inside your business. Use it that way and grow your business. All right, let's get into the training.
Have gone to college or pursued higher learning in some way if he wanted to. Not that I would have paid for everything for him, but we would have made sure that he had the opportunity to pursue whatever floated his boat. And all I ever told him was, what I do is an option for you. And it would make me proud if you followed in my footsteps, but it would make me proud if you pursued something else and just got great at it. Because that's what at the end of the day, that's my main concern. And he chose to finish his last year of high school online and get in the passenger seat of a plumbing truck and become a plumber. So I'm pumped about that. And I'm not loving the fact that he already had a water accident yesterday. As a freaking
That's called
apprentice.
Living and learning.
Yeah, that's more on the lead who didn't check his work, in my opinion, but don't love the fact that he already had a restoration claim. But hey, we have partners for that. So yeah, so third gen plumber. I don't know how far back to go, but high school dropout, got my GED in rehab after a 10-year opiate addiction when I was 32. Came out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I went to a rehab facility there because my stepdad had kicked an 18-year crack addiction in that facility called Teen Challenge. And it worked for me as well for the opiates. So glad for that. Got into a truck, was in a truck less than a year, and then had the owners of that operation asked me to take over the plumbing department. And now I had studied under Ken Goodrich for 7 years when I lived in Vegas. So I had a little bit of a blueprint of what to do. And then after 2 or 3 years of that, they asked me to also take over the electrical division. And then after 2 years of blowing both of those departments up, they asked me to promote operations managers in the HVAC plumbing electrical division to report to me and then become the vice president of sales, which is where I should have been the whole time because I'm not much of an operator. I'm not a detail guy. If it doesn't hit my yellow notepad, it doesn't exist. And I'm not very well structured. I have a lot of structure in my life, but it's because if I don't, nothing will ever get done. So became vice president of sales, took that company from 6 million at 4% net when I got there to 32 million at just over 20% net when I left, and they sold the year I left. And then moved over to Benjamin Franklin Plumbing of Scottsdale and partnered with a guy who wanted to buy his old business back, but in 20 years of owning it, they had gotten it to 1.9 million in revenue and double-digit negative net profit. So he wanted to get it back, but he didn't want to, keep making it rain for it to exist. So he asked me to partner with him.
You want to keep paying everyone else besides himself, is what you're saying.
Yeah, essentially, that's what it was doing. So we made the partnership happen. And first year, I joined in September. By the end of the year, we did 2.4. Next year, we did 4.8. Last year, we did 6.2, all organic, and we're tracking 8.5 this year. So, going to build it for.
What does that look like? If you don't mind sharing, as far as
sure,
just profit percentage on that. What does that look like? Because you said it was double-digit negative when you started.
Yeah, so it went from negative 12% that in 2023 to 1% in 2024, which we budgeted for 0, hoping we could just get to 0, and then 3% net in 25. Now, EBITDA's about double that with everything we got flowing through, but great question. Not a question I love, but I'm not going to shy away from it. I'll shy away from it if you don't ask.
Still a 15% improvement. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if you look
it's a
at from
pretty big
the,
swing, but you know,
it's still a big swing.
I got to Lancaster, they were already in the black. So at 4%, I'm like, hell yeah. We just need to raise the average tickets, raise the conversion rates, fix the pricing, and we're going to explode. And it did explode, and it didn't take very long at all, right? But this
So
team,
let's start there, because so just based on a lot of things that have been working on, and it's not, and obviously we're in somewhat of a shoulder season in February for HVAC.
yeah,
So we've been helping clients with a lot of outbound campaigns and just trying to get back in homes and stuff like that. But sometimes, you know, that's great to keep the calendar full, but sometimes the team members we're sending to that home, they don't have a great process, or they're not trained on a great process, or we don't have an infrastructure to regularly train them on how to run the play or run the playbook
right.
when they're in home. And I find that a lot of times, like sometimes then we're end up doing a lot of $49, $79 tune-ups, and we're not capturing any other opportunities.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you guys? Because obviously, you know, plumbing's doesn't have a lot of seasonality. It has a little, certain like holidays and stuff like that. But as far as you guys setting up your training, because I'm assuming you coming in with your experience, you're training a lot of these technicians or these plumbers on how to run the play, how to run the system, so that way they can increase their average ticket and they can get more on each call. What does that look like? I know it's a broad question, but I figured we'd start there.
No. This is what I do. So yeah, it's when I stepped in, they actually had an 80% conversion rate, which I was like, holy crap, but a $506 opportunity average. And we include everything in that. So if you run a maintenance, that's included. If you run a complimentary maintenance, which I'll talk about how we've partnered with some local companies to make sure our schedule is getting fuller and fuller every month, it all counts, right? The only thing that doesn't count is a direct call back. Like I ran a call yesterday, forgot to turn the water heater temp back up, had to run back out and turn it back up. We don't count that, but everything else counts. So it was 506 when I got here. And then last year we closed at like 1602 opportunity average. That right there is going to do the majority of the growth, right? Now, conversion rate, because Mike Brewer, the guy I partner with out here, he comes in and he says, Brian's going to add 10 points to our conversion rate and he's going to double our ticket average. And I'm like, they're closing at 80%. I'm like, well, the ticket average part, we're going to do more than double. We're going to triple that because that needs to be 1,500 to be profitable. The conversion rate's coming down. no doubt about that. And it did. So we're converting at like 65%, swinging that bat a little bit harder and then having some more misses. So I would definitely like to get that closer to 70, but my main concern is the opportunity average is much higher. So yes, so a process has to be in place. And my process, that's called the GoPro system, which is an acronym, was built for maintenance calls. So I learned to sell at Ken Goodrich's Yes Plumbing in Las Vegas. And they didn't have a structure. He did not have a process. I was there for 7 years. He had a lot of training come in, and I really appreciate that he did that. He would bring guys like Terry Nicholson from Clockworks in, and you name it, in terms of sales trainers. Then there weren't many. There were like 5 in the home services, but he would pay to bring them in. And then I would pay whatever it took to go to Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy and the sales guys that existed in the early 2000s. I would go to their training and I would be sitting in these crowds with all these insurance sales and real estate and car dealership guys. And I'm the only plumber in the building, but I would just break down their training systems and turn it into what I could personally use in the home, right? And I was running about 80 to 90% maintenance calls for Ken. I had a conversation with him. So I went in his office one day, and I don't know if anybody knows him personally. If you have conversations with him at the trade show, great guy, good personality. If you work with him or for him, same for the most part, but he's pretty aggressive and he can be pretty intimidating, especially back then when he weighed, I don't know, 300 pounds and it's like 6'2", and he's like mean, right? He's pretty aggressive. So I would come in and like 24, 25, and I sit across from him and I said, hey, Ken, KG, I always call him, you got 2 guys who just kill me like every month. They crush me, and they're seasoned dudes. They've been with them for a while, and they get all the leaking water heaters and the sewer lines and like all that stuff. And I'm like, and I get it. I'm not saying I deserve to have that, but what do I have to do to start getting to a point where I get those? And he said, well, For now, you can get them. It's when you're on call. Or you can come in and work the weekend when they're not working and they're all yours, right? And so I did a lot of that. But the other thing you can do is you can become a guy who is so profitable on these maintenance calls that we don't have a choice but to give you the other calls because it just makes financial sense for us. He's like, we're not going to do it to make you feel good. That's not how you build a business. So I'm like, okay. So the mission became I have to get my conversion rate and opportunity average up to their level on maintenance calls to be able to get the demand calls. And so I started building my process, which now I call the GoPro system.
What does that acronym
So
stand
that GoPro is GACA, which is just the upfront contract, upfront agreement. I can actually run through this whole thing pretty quickly. Objective opportunity is the O, present options, request ownership just means ask for the business, and then objection discovery, right? So request ownership, ask them to buy, which according to the National Association of Sales Professionals released a survey with Richard Fenton, the co-writer of Go for No. Freaking love that book. 85% of sales presentations in the United States in 2025 ended without a client ever being asked to buy one time. Now, these guys aren't home service sales trainers. So they're talking about legit, like real deal sales people with high levels of training, right? Insurance, real estate, like the for real ones. So if they're saying only 15% of them are ever asking someone to buy, what do you think that is in your business? Feel free to shout something out. Like if you don't have significant levels of training on it, I would say is when I got here, and I do the same thing at all my boot camps. If I go train at your shop, I do this with your team. I don't know if there's anybody on who's had me out, but I kind of start with this. Raise your hand if you're asking your clients to buy at some point. All the hands go up. Raise your hand if you're so sure you do it on every call, you're ready to role play the question you use. All the hands go down. And if you want to find out real quick if they're actually doing it, other than having some of this amazing recording software we have now, ask who's doing it on every call. At least half of the salespeople's hands will go up. And then say, all right, hit me with the question that you use. And you'll get a lot of stuttering. And maybe after a couple minutes, someone will come up with like, which one makes the most sense to you kind of thing. But the challenge is, of all the calls being run at our shops without high levels of training going into it, a very small percentage of our clients are ever being asked to take the order, right? So there was this older survey that I had printed out and laminated, and I would put on the projector back in 2013 when I
You're
first
aging yourself a little bit.
first got into management. We didn't have all this other stuff. So I'd slap it down on the projector with the team in Lancaster, and it would be on the main board in the training. And it showed that there was a sales study done by one of the universities. They followed right along, listened to the calls of 1,000 salespeople in 100 different sales professions. And they found that 20% of the salespeople made 80% of the commission. And 80% of the salespeople had to split the 20% that was left over and live off of it. So they went through all these metrics to find out what was the difference between Bob Blaine, who's making 80% of the commission, and all the rest of us on the call who are splitting the 20% of the commission that's left over, right? What was the biggest difference? And they looked at disc profiles and Myers-Briggs and 100 different other things that they could think of, because obviously it has to be personality based, right? And none of it made a difference. You had I's closing more than D's and all over the place. The only differentiating factor they could find was that the top 20% asked every single person they presented to take it at least one time. And the bottom 20 or the bottom 80% never asked people to buy, like at all. And the average for the top 20% was 4 times was the average that someone got asked if they didn't buy. So the only differentiating factor between the sellers and the non-sellers was that their clients are being asked to take the order at the end. So they then went and surveyed the people who did not buy, all the people who didn't buy. And they asked them what was the number one reason they didn't make a purchase today. And it's wild. They don't know what the reason was, but the reason they gave, I'll speculate, was that they didn't understand what delivery looked like. And why wouldn't they understand it? Well, if you asked me to buy it, now I need clarification on what that even means. Right. But if you don't ask me to buy it, then I'm just like, and this is what we did. So I was at Ken Goodrich's company, and Mike Bissell was the plumber who just lit me up every month. And the worst part, the worst thing that happened was one month in like September, he went on vacation for a week, and it was the third week of the month. And at the end of the third week, going into the fourth week, I blew past him while he was gone. And look, a W is a W in my world. All right. So Mike gets back from vacation, and I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? And he's like, what's happening? And Mike's 15 years older than me or something. But so he wasn't like one of the boys like Brent Buckley and Joey Feliciano and Matt Harbison. We had a squad of guys that we were all really tight. And Mike was just kind of off doing his own thing because he was quite a bit older. But I said, what's up? And I said, this is the month, bro. Like, you don't have enough month to catch me. And I'll work 7 days to make sure. And he laughed, and he looks up at the board and sees our numbers, beside each other. And he goes, I don't know, man. There's a whole lot of month left. It was a week. And he beat me. And he broke me. That broke me. Because I remember thinking, like, he was a good enough guy, but again, not one of the boys. But so I didn't want to go to him and just humble myself, what felt like humiliate myself. But I learned a valuable lesson by doing it. And I just went to him after a meeting, and I sit down with my notepad, my pen, and I sit across the table from him, and I'm just like, Mike, bro, I don't know what to do. What would you do if you were me trying to beat you? And he was really gracious about it. He said, bro, you have $1 million smile, and I don't. And people like being around you. You got magnetic energy, and I don't. But I will always beat you, always. Because I ask every one of my clients to buy from me, and you don't ask anybody. And I was like, what? He had never done a ride along with me, mind you. I did one with him, but he had never ridden with me. And I said, I ask everybody to buy. And he's like, all right, cool. And he like picks up my notepad and he hands it to me, and he goes, well, go ahead and sell me a whole home carbon filtration system. And I'm like, all right, buddy, get the credit card out. And I did like a little fake test, and I did what I normally do in the home in the Vegas water. And I turned my notepad sideways and I write up 3 options. This is long before tablets, so it was happening on paper. And I did what I do in the home, what most of our techs and salespeople do in the home. I slid the options forward, gave a little brief explanation on each one. And I started praying. God, I need to pay my lease payment on my apartment. Like, please let them buy this thing. Please let them buy this thing, right? And I don't think I'm shucking my responsibility or doing anything wrong. Like, I presented very well, and I sold like a mother humper, and I'm like high-fiving myself on the energy and the passion, and how in they seemed to be was a feather in the cap for me. And way more times than not, the people looked, even got the really good body language where the wife like runs her hand through the husband's arm and does this move, which I know when I ask people to buy later, if that happened, freaking done. Like, that's a sold job right there. But they would always stare down. They'd look back up at me. They'd look back down at the paper, and they'd be like, this is great, man. Throw your card, put it on the fridge. We'll give you a call next week. We'll take the weekend. And I just walk out like, what the heck? Right. Well, I did that to Mike, and I pushed the options forward, and I sat back, and he was just like, bro, that was awesome. That was way better than I thought. You're going to be a killer, but are you going to ask me to buy it? And that was the first time I realized that I wasn't actually asking people to buy. And I had been on calls with him, and he was way more assertive than I was back then. I mean, I'm 24, 25, straight from the hood, gangbanger, drug dealer, just high school dropout loser, had no intention of being a winner until I met Ken and his GM, Lance, who became my first mentor. And Lance's big thing was with me is stop talking like a punk and pull your pants up. I sagged and all that, wore shirts that were 2 sizes too big. But I thought about it, and I remembered, like, I didn't have the capacity to be as direct and assertive as him in the home, especially with men with money. Didn't have a dad, didn't know the cat. Don't feel like I missed much, but even when Ken would be mad at me, which he filleted me a couple times, rightfully so. I would just, I'm not like scared of dudes or anything. Like I'll go, right? I mean, that's where I grew up and how I grew up, but I could be intimidated really easily, almost like my void of a father figure made me want their, not to please, maybe to please them, but their acceptance, right? I wanted to be good in their eyes. And I still have that to some extent. I probably always had that. So I couldn't go direct like Mike would. He would push the options forward and he would explain them a little. He'd give it like a two Mississippi and he'd look back up and go, Josh, let me ask you, which one makes the most sense to you here? We can get started today, right? Just ammo. And I knew he had done that and I thought about doing that, but I thought for a guy like me in the home, I can do that every time. But if I go try to do that with a guy like Ken Goodrich, I'm not going to be able to do it. I won't be able to be that assertive. And then I'll be back to praying that he asked me for it. So I had to design a question that was soft enough and delicate enough that a 24-year-old, weak little delicate Brian could ask it every time, but also effective enough that if I asked you, you would say yes, if it made sense to you. And if it didn't make sense to you, you wouldn't be put off. You'd say no, and here's the reason. And then we have the opportunity to go back and forth because I was already good with objections because Brent and the crew and I role played objections nonstop every single weekday.
You do that every day?
Yeah. So Brent Buckley.
What did that look like? Was that something you guys did yourself, or was it something from leadership that?
No, there was no leadership in the room. So we would get there half an hour before the meeting started. So we were there at 6:30 a.m. There was 5 or 6 of us for the most part. There was a Waste No Day episode, the first one we had Brent on, where we really go into a little bit. And it sounds fun, and it was fun, but it was not fun being somewhere half an hour before a 7 a.m. morning meeting. But it just was what it was. We expected each other to be there. So what we normally did, it's a group like us. I can see 9 people. So there's 10 of us. And I would have the marker that day and I'd say, who had a tough objection that shut them down yesterday, right? Bob Lincoln raises his hand. And we go, all right, bro, what you got? And he says the objection. And we all vote and agree that that's the one we'll tackle today. So I'd write Monday objection up there. And then we would take turns rebutting the objection. Everyone would go. Whoever's was the best as voted by the group would get written on the board and your name would go next to it. Now I'm competitive. Brent Buckley is wildly competitive. Dude, 13 million, I think he did his biggest year in a truck. And everybody else on our team was competitive. So my goal was for you to walk in the room and see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 objections, Brian, right? To have the best rebuttal. And then we would all role play the rebuttal until 7 o'clock. And when management came into the room, and we did that for years. So we were aces at overcoming objections. But when you present options and just kind of slide them forward and don't actually ask the person to buy, you don't really get the opportunity for objections because they're just like, no, this is our process. Give me a few days and we'll get back to you early next week. And you can do the thing where you're like, well, what part of this do you need to think over? All the kind of old school, but they're not giving you an objection. They're just telling you to piss off, right? They're just done with this conversation. They're probably a little confused because if you look at that survey and they asked those people why they didn't buy and they said they didn't understand what delivery looked like, they asked those people if you had clearly understood what delivery looked like and it was comfortably affordable, would you have moved forward today? 50% of the people who did not buy said yes. So the question has to be something that clears the air. So what my question ended up looking like, which is the R in GoPro, was now it's 3 options, right? So Luke, you want to role play this, bro? All right, let's go.
Luke's always up for a good time.
So I would dice up the 3, slide it forward, give you a sec to look at it. I did an explanation on it. I go, Luke, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Hypothetically speaking, if you were to choose one of these 3 today, which one do you think you'd lean towards?
Thinking probably the middle one.
Middle one? That's a great option. More and more of the people I serve are choosing an option just like that one. Probably the one I would have chosen for you myself, frankly. I got all this stuff on the truck What I don't have is at the shop, and I can have a shop tech drop it off while I get started. I bet you I have your system back on, cleaned up, water on, and I'm out of here before you guys even sit down to dinner. Does that sound good?
Oh, yeah.
And
Cool.
then on the
Let's do it.
does that sound good? Crack a little smile. I raise my eyebrows like I'm expecting an answer. And I just start nodding yes. And these things got added along the way. That wasn't part of the question in the beginning. And they got added because I always talk about my note to self notebook. That's now it's mostly in my phone's notepad. But like when I'm on calls like this and I get a good question or good feedback, I'm not going to pick the phone up. I'm going to jot it down, right? And in the note to self notebook, if I was sitting there having the conversation and did the close like that, and I nodded for some reason while I was doing it, I would notice that while I was nodding in person, I'll do this in a boot camp with 100 people, and you'll see the entire first 2 rows sit there and nod with me. Everyone I make eye contact with starts nodding. The client did it. Even sometimes when they would say no, they were still nodding when they said it. So we're built for, we're just kind of built for compliance, right? So I noticed that, I added it. I noticed that if I cracked a smile, it kind of kept some of your more assertive people from getting defensive, right? Sometimes that would go on for a minute. And I noticed that if I raised my eyebrows a little bit, like I was asking a question, I would get an answer more quickly. So I added those little things to the notepad, and then they got added to the presentation. So if you notice some of the things that happen in there, I'll do a quick breakdown. Hypothetically speaking, I am pulling any pressure or need for resistance out of that question because I'm not asking you to do anything. Just hypothetically, right? Not asking you to take it. If you were to choose one of these 3, which one do you think you'd lean toward? So all we're doing there is removing 2 of them. So now we can focus on one, and now we're going to ask for the choice to be made, right? That's a great option. Am I the authority in the home on the plumbing system that day? Yes. Your techs, your salespeople, we're the authority, right? So when we're seeing the doctor and we make a statement and he compliments our statement or choice, we feel good, right? The authority figure agrees with us. So I say that's a great option. And then this part I actually took from my friend, thank you very much, Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote Influence and Persuasion, which is top 3 best books ever written on selling. Got to have breakfast with him and have him on the show. He's local here. He's actually head of psychology at ASU. But he was, one of his principles of influence is social proof. Like your friends and neighbors feel the same way. So I told him at breakfast, I use his social proof in my close. And I said, most of the people we serve choose an option like this one. And he said, no, not most of. You see, because you're telling them that they're part of a trend, which is great, but they could be on the back end of that trend. We don't want to be on a dying trend. We want to be on a growing trend. So you say more and more as if it's gaining popularity, because that's where we want to live, right? So more and more of the people we serve are choosing an option just like that one. It's probably the one I would choose myself, right? And then I would move to what delivery looks like. And I knew we had to get that part out because of that survey, right? So I have this at the shop. Maybe we're working with comfort advisors who are scheduling 2 days out. Doesn't matter. Doesn't change anything. I can get you on the schedule for Tuesday morning. Install team will be here between 7 and 8. I bet you they'll have everything wrapped up, good to go, cleaner than it was when they got here, and be out of your hair before you pick the girls up from school. Raise the eyebrows, crack a smile, start nodding and say, does that sound good? And here's the thing about, does that sound good? Does that sound good? That sounds awesome, doesn't it? Like I'll be done before you guys sit down to watch the new Game of Thrones series. Right? Whatever we've figured out that you're going to do this evening through the warm-up process, we need to know what that is because we don't use time. Here's the other thing. I stopped using the time I think will be done a long time ago, and I started using an event you've told me about previously. What time you sit down to dinner, what show you're going to watch this evening, the fact that your Chargers are playing tonight. what time you go get the kids from school, some event that's coming up, and I would nail it to that. So in your mind, you're picturing sitting down for that game or that show or that food or going to do what you were going to do. And I've got all this equipment installed and am gone. And we make that mental image in our minds. And for some reason, I found every time I did that, my conversion rate went up because I'm making you picture yourself having this new equipment and me being gone and everything's clean and good to go, right?
So essentially what you're, if I'm going to paraphrase real quick and then we can get to Chris's question because she raised her hand, is you're asking for the sale, but in a way that was comfortable for you and not essentially like, man, I know there's other people out there like, what should we do and stuff like that. They have their own.
Yeah. Dude,
you guys all know what
I
I'm
did
talking
a,
about, but which is fine. Everyone's got their own
episode,
way.
We did a Waste No Day episode where I got a hold of all of the sales trainers, like the ones in our space, and like Andy Elliott, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, all been on the show. And I got a hold of them and said, give me your specific buying question. And I think we used 8 buying questions. The whole episode was just buying questions. And I said pretty frankly, if I had Joe Crisera's What Should We Do? If I had Weldon Long's Will You Trust Me with This Project in 2005, hypothetically speaking, does that sound good? Which is what I call mine. It would not exist. I would have never gone through all the work it took to build that one. But it does exist now. And the thing with that one is, Doug Wyatt, I consider him one of the best. I don't know if you guys know Doug. You know Doug, don't you, Josh?
I know Doug very well.
Yeah, I consider him among the best sales trainers in our industry, maybe even period. I think the guy's awesome. Whenever I'm on one of these things, I just assume you couldn't afford Doug, so you got me. So he was on Waste No Day talking about Joe, Uncle Joe's, and he and Joe are friends, and he made that clear before he said this, but the what should we do? He said, if you're going to a cardiologist and they called you and they said, I need you in here now, drop what you're doing and get in here. And you go see him and he's like, here's what you got going on. You need surgery. Like, we can fix it. It's risky. Yeah, but you need to get this done. Or you got about 6 months, right? How would you feel if that doctor gave you your options and then looked at you and said, what should we do? Versus moving forward. This is what you need to have done. Here are your options, but this is the one that is going to make the most sense and like moving you forward, right? And I actually liked that. The only reason I probably would never switch to what should we do is I want whittle down to one option and I want to directly ask you to take it. That's the end game for me. The more we do that, the higher I see conversion rates as a whole, period, flat out. And all I do, despite what roles I've been, operations manager, VP of sales, general manager now, I'm a sales trainer. This is where I spend the bulk of my time in analytics and data and RILA and trying to understand things better. And I just find that the direct yes or no question is going to win out against anything that's just kind of up in the air 100% of the time. So yeah, sorry, go ahead, but I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're totally fine because you whittle down to a singular option. You ask the question, and then you are also doing the delivery part, which is what you said was the part where the people that didn't buy, 50% of them would have bought if they know exactly what it was and it was within their budget.
Yeah,
so I feel like that whole segment right there it takes all of those little pieces that you put together based on other surveys and analysis that you've studied and put together one segment it sounds fairly short in home once you're practiced and well-versed at it, where it can literally get
fast.
to the point, like within like 60 seconds, you have that out and you're whittled down to one option, asking them, and then also laying out, what does that look like? Like, cause any one time I've had people in my home, I'm in my new office. You guys could tell there's nothing on the wall. Like, one of the biggest gripes we had.
Like, where are your whiteboards, bro? How do you live?
It's in the little conference area that Brittany and I have between our offices next door on the ground, because I am not handy, as any of you guys know. So I will put too many holes in the wall. So I usually wait for someone to help me so I don't create a bunch of extra holes. But with that project, like the whole part of this project that sucked, we never knew who was coming, what they were doing. Like there's no,
Right.
to this point, and granted, it's a longer project, but it's the delivery of it.
But still,
It's
yeah,
so
it's like,
frustrating. I've
and
felt that
this
frustration
is
literally for the last year, and has sucked. It's like we never know what's going on. It's like, oh, someone shows up, like, what are you doing today? So that clarity, I think, is a big piece. Brian, before you go any further, Chris has had her hand up on Zoom here for a little bit, so I
what's
want
up,
to make sure
Chris?
that we let her ask her question.
I can't see any of that, so sorry about that. Oh,
No.
Carissa, gotcha.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
So I guess my question is, I love giving the customer a visual and telling them we'll be done by dinner. What do you do in the situations that you're not done by that event?
So you're
do
saying
you-
Yeah,
after the team
so-
has started and you're running behind, or it's going late,
Right.
or you have
And it's-
problems, or
It's very regular. So if I think we're going to be done by like 3:30, I'm saying we'll be done by dinner time. So I'm overshooting by a mile the time window to begin with. But the clients are always pretty cool. Let me jump into GACA real quick because this is the G in GoPro, and this will kind of help clear that up. They're always pretty cool about the time changing if you can get to them very early and let them know. I know we said we'd be done by dinner time. It's looking like it's going to be more like 8, 9 o'clock. Is there anything you'd like me to do in between there to make sure that you guys are comfortable and getting done everything you need to get done, right? So as long as we communicate it, it tends to go pretty well. You guys have people in your home. The thing is, if we see them sitting down to dinner and we come in and tell them we're going to be another 3 hours, you just made them mad. But if we can get to them at 3:30, 4 o'clock and tell them it's going to be another 2, 3 hours, it tends to go pretty well. So the communication has to be really, really be top notch. And I would tell, when I was running an HVAC team, I would tell the lead installers, I need you guys to way over communicate with the advisor all the time. And I didn't really want the leads, depending, there were some of them that were like so socially inept, like you wouldn't, talking to them on the phone drove you crazy. Like, and texting was worse because they could never spell. So I would oftentimes tell the leads to be in communication with the advisor, and then the advisor knows they're going to be longer than we thought. Advisor's making the phone call to the client or swing by, but communication's key. So GACA is how we start any call. And remembering my presentation, because Ken Goodrich told me I needed to slay maintenance calls. This was all built for maintenance. Now it evolved into training that I used for demand calls, HVAC sales calls, electrical maintenance, electrical sales. And now I've trained restoration companies, roofing companies, solar companies, like you name it. At this point, I'm going to pretty much everyone in the home services, and haven't had any team yet that didn't say their conversion rates and opportunity averages skyrocketed by implementing the GoPro system. Partially also because I'm so passionate about sales that I tend to make guys who are super anti-sales into at least open to the concept of selling, as long as they don't feel like slime balls. And nothing in my system is going to make them feel like a slime ball, because I was anti-sales when I got to Ken Goodrich's company and built my system around that. So GACA looks like, Tom Hopkins called it the intentionality statement. David Sandler training it, called it the upfront contract. And there's different versions of each, but they're basically the same thing. This is at the door. How are we getting on a good level with the client really quickly? And then how am I getting all the questions that I need answered in no time at all, right? Because we don't have a lot of time at the front door. So first thing is gratitude. The G is gratitude. Not like Shell station, thanks for shopping with Shell, gratitude. That doesn't mean anything. But ideally, the tech is leaving their last call, the shop, the house, whatever, opens Titan, sees the client, starts thinking of who this client might be, and starts thinking of reasons they're grateful for this human being. And I had a sticky note next to my key and like scotch taped up because they dried out so fast in Vegas with a G on it. And I would get in to leave my call and I would tap that G and go, oh yeah, I got to think of something that I'm grateful for this person that I've never met. right? And we didn't have iPads then
I
either.
love that in general, just for like everyday life. Like there's been days, even, just recently where like days are a struggle. There's so much going on. There's so much hype. There's so much, everything's changing, moving.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
you
lot of
guys all
work.
know what I'm talking about. Like world is like, I was listening to Diary of a CEO last night with some of these guys about AI and what the future looks like. And that's a probably podcast I don't want to listen to.
It's
But
very impersonal. It's getting.
yeah, well, and being grateful and waking up with intentionality is, I was literally just telling my wife this, 'cause I was kind of in a mood yesterday, and I'm like, I don't like feeling like this. Like it didn't didn't have my normal energy, and of course it impacts like not working out. And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna eat like crap because I don't care right now. And you just do the things that it just takes you. It's so easy to spiral and get off of what's gotten you to whatever level everyone here on the call is at. But I love that, starting with gratefulness, whether it's on a simple thing as a call, or even just because almost everyone on here, I'm pretty much sure everyone on here is either service manager or the owner of their business. So you guys have the biggest weight of them all, right? Like you not only get to try to figure out how to help your team sell more, you got to get with us to help on the marketing side. You got to get with your CSRs to make sure they're doing a good job. And then you got
the angry client.
You got to make sure all your clients are happy and all that stuff. You guys got the huge weight, and that weight can feel like a gorilla sitting on your back sometimes. So I love just the takeaway of the gratefulness and just trying to figure out what that looks like for you.
I love where you're going with this, and it's making me think I should have that sticky note next to my keyboard.
I might put one next to mine.
But the thing was to get in and have the reset of let's focus on that next client a little bit, and let's focus in a way that I'm going to dish out some genuine, heartfelt gratitude because of the way that I saw it change our relationship in the beginning of the call. And what I didn't realize, but that happened over time, was my days got significantly sunnier because I'm focusing on gratitude from the time I left this a-hole that chewed me out and gave me the boot to the time that I saw the next client, who was a wonderful mother of 4 little nightmares. And I think the second time I did the gratitude, it was a lady with like a baby with a heavy diaper and 2 toddlers just destroying the place, and a lot of screaming, and like something was cooking, and she looked like she stuck her finger in an electrical socket and was very impatient with me even at the door. And I'm like, I only got one lady on the call, so I'm going to use you, Carissa. And I said, hey, Carissa, before we get started, let me just tell you, I grew up with a single mom, twin brother in Detroit. She worked, went to school, took care of us all by herself. I'm not saying I know what you're going through, because I could never, but I appreciate the fact that you're juggling everything you're juggling right now and putting up with all this for the sake of these 3 little guys, and adding me to your plate and everything I'm going to do with the plumbing system today. And I want you to know that I appreciate your circumstance, and I'm going to make this as low stress as I possibly can. And I talked a little bit about my mom and what a hero she always was to me and my brother. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. And she started crying, forgot all about all the stress, right? She's like welling up, and I can see it. And I'm just like, oh, and now I can't make eye contact with her anymore. I'm like, I regret doing gratitude completely, right? But the call went super well, and it became a revisit where I came in and met with her and her husband later in the evening when the kids were sleeping, and it turned into a nice sale for me. But definitely the more important part of that was what? She's a stay-at-home mom with 3 small kids. And I have a wife who's a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids, 2 big, 2 small, and a dog and a cat. And I know from personal experience that her day is not filled with genuine gratitude, because I'm coming home, crack the door open. I've got blue collar closer live call to do in 45 minutes, and then a Waste No Day episode after that. And I'm going to be locked in the studio till 8:30 tonight. And I like trip on a Tonka toy, and I'm like, I don't smell dinner. I'm like, does anybody clean around here? Like, what's like just a total a-hole. It's all me coming in. And that's pretty typical, I think, of men today, and not focusing on that G, right? Not thinking about that on the way home like we should be on the way home, or to a call, or even to the shop like we should be. And I hit her with that gratitude, and it was so heartfelt for her. And it just made me realize it it could have been months since she received some genuine gratitude for what she's doing here. And then I did it to men too. And in any way I could come up with, I was laying out some gratitude for them. Usually I tried to make it about the client, but if you can't come up with anything, if it's just a dude, like whatever, there's nothing there, well, then you can use two other ones. You can use the team. Here's why I'm so grateful to be part of the team that I'm part of. And you having me over to the house today gives me the opportunity to keep doing that. And for that, I just want to say thank you, man. I really appreciate you, right? And get the handshake. Or my personal story of how the trades have benefited me so much. Now my young son is following in my footsteps, and it's literally because of folks like yourself having us over. And I'm just want you to know that that actually means a lot to me that I get to serve you today. So thank you for that, right? And it's a little just tiny nugget of real heartfelt gratitude that gets this call started on the right foot. We have a great relationship already. Their day is better. And because I was focused on that on the way here instead of what all my counterparts are focused on, which is the crappy traffic, weather, last call sucked, boss and his stupid meeting this morning that we're all pissed about, dispatch sucks, CSR suck, everything sucks, right? Service Titan's nightmare, blah, 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 whatever. I'm focusing on gratitude. So my day's going better. My client's day just got better. And then we move into authorization, which is the A. And this, I had this before. I changed it because of, I don't see the book here, but Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator, also been on the podcast a couple times if you want to hear it, and never split the difference. He went in on the fact that leading up to the sale, unlike what most sales trainers train, Andy Elliott's still a big trainer of this, where you just yes them to death the whole time. And then when you ask them to buy, they're programmed miraculously. They have to say yes now, right? The FBI uses a different tactic, which is to get them to say no as many times as possible. Thanks, Angel. Get them to say no as many times as possible leading up to asking them to buy, because every time they say no, there's like a balloon of anxiety, of pressure in their belly leading up to what they know is going to be a sales presentation coming. And every time they say no and you don't react negatively, that anxiety releases. And they start realizing I can say no to this salesperson and not get a bunch of aggression in my door slammed. And most people have had an unprofessional salesperson in their life somewhere that made them hate salespeople. So it became my 2 points of authorization, which is just giving the keys to the kingdom back to the client, asking for permission for a couple things. It doesn't lower our status. It just makes us respectful. So we say, let's role play it, Luke. Ready?
Go for it.
Luke,
I'll do
is
it.
there
I'll
any
do it. I'll
issue
try
with
it.
where my truck's parked?
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Good. Awesome. Would you be opposed to me throwing my floor protectors on and joining you?
Come on. No problem.
All right. So we get two tiny little anxiety relieving no's out early, but he's saying yes, right? I used to say, is my truck parked in a good spot? And can I throw my floor protectors on and join you, right? But now I'm asking it the Chris Voss way, which is flipping it to him saying no, but meaning yes, right? And psychological studies on fMRIs were done on this, and they had people in negotiation settings, and when they were asked questions that end in a yes, their amygdala fired, cortisol spiked. And when they were asked questions that they got to say no to, even the exact same question with the exact same answer, except it was no instead of yes, the amygdala response, the stress part of the brain went down. So
That's fascinating.
he talks all about it and never split the difference. Great book. Probably that and Influence, I would say, are the two best books ever written on selling and negotiation. So we get those two no's out of the way. And then quickly we move into the C of GACA, which is credibility. I don't care how salt and pepper your sales guy is and how long he looks like he's been in the trade. I'll tell you that about 75% of clients don't care. They think you're credible already. So let's move, right? but maybe 25% of clients are still on the fence of whether they trust you and your team, and us doing the slightest bit of credibility can push them over that fence. So I'm still big on it. And if it looks like Josh and you look like you've got some years behind you, then
Are you
just
saying
do it.
old?
Hey man, I've been in electrical for 22 years. I'm confident that anything we run into today, I can get taken care of for you. Right. But if you got guys on your team that are recently apprentices running calls now, hopefully, or at least you will soon, training up the next generation. If they look like they're 19, but they're actually 24 and they only have a year and a half in, well, then they do this. Just to let you know, Josh, between everybody we have on our team, we have over 200 years of electrical experience. I'm confident that no matter what we run into today, we'll get you taken care of. Does that sound good? Right. And just throw a little look, I got backup, right? I look young, but I got backup. You don't say I look young, or you don't say I've only been doing this for 9 months ever. You just say there's a lot of years backing me up. And then we move into, other than the gratitude, what I would consider the meat of GACA, which is the agreement. We're about to get 3 objections out before we've even stepped onto the objections minefield, right? So it's time commitment, permission to present, and decision makers. So I go, Josh, just so you know, typically a call like this is going to take anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes. If it's going to be much shorter or much longer than that, I'll come and let you know as soon as I realize it. Does that work?
It works.
Now, I just got a 90-minute clip of his attention. He agreed to it. Well, what if he says, I only have 30 minutes? All right, reschedule. I'm not going through all this and not having time to present. We'll come back out, right? So you have 90 minutes, no problem there?
Yeah, that works.
Awesome. While I'm going through the system, if I find anything that I think should be addressed or that I think you and the family would really enjoy having, would you like me to bring that to your attention, or do you want me to just keep that to myself?
Bring it to my attention.
Bring it to your attention. Awesome. Is there anyone else who would want to be part of that chat?
Yeah, my wife.
Your wife. All right, sounds good. I'll get started. So I got at least 90 minutes. I just got him to ask me to bring things to his attention. Did he not? So I'm not going to get the every time you guys freaking come out here, blah, 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 right? And then I just found out that his wife needs to be part of the conversation. So when I get to the end and I'm about to present, I'm going to say, you said Brittany would want to be part of this conversation. Is she available? And if he says, no way, no how, she's not available, I'll say, well, you told me she would want to be part of this conversation. I would never want to be disrespectful to you or her wishes and have this conversation without her. So what time would be, not like right when she gets home, like I don't want to be imposing, but after she relaxes a little bit, what would be a good time to swing back by so the 3 of us can game up on this? And 9 out of 10 times, they will give you that without some weird tug of war that we get to at the end when none of this ever came up before.
I like the way you approach that. It sounds like way more comfortable. I've sat through a lot of
natural
sales trainings,
conversation.
and it's like on the phone, it's like, well, when are they going to be home? And you like kind of force I mean, people aren't stupid. They know why you want
they know what you're
people
doing.
there. But the way you approached it it didn't feel, there's no pressure on that. It's like, hey, you just want to make sure you said that you need your wife involved. We're going to wait. Let's wait for her, because I don't want you to have to make a decision or try to explain it to her.
Yeah, it's all as real and natural as possible.
Yeah, Brian, I know we're up past the top of the hour here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, including yours. I wanted to
keep going,
ask
buddy.
you,
I can hear you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you 2 questions, because I know you got a lot of episodes of Waste No Day, and maybe this is something we can connect with afterwards, because I want to send this out to everyone on this call and our other clients that weren't able to make it today, because we didn't really get into, you talked a lot about you running 80, that your experience is running 80 to 90% of maintenance calls. From my experience, I've also seen the companies that grow the most predictably are maintenance focused companies. They start with the maintenance. Obviously, they still take care of demand and everything else. And obviously that is something that as a marketing agency, we help a lot of clients with, is getting back in homes, but having them run the system to run the maintenance calls so they're actually successful at that is something that I would really love to bring to our clients and stuff, because I think it'd be really valuable. So I'm sure you have some episodes, and I can ask Nate and anyone else on your team too, but so that would be something.
Yeah, so
like an episode on that. And then
I don't know that we have like Coral Whale in the HVAC. She's done, I think, 3 episodes. Actually, this week is her again. She's a great one because she takes HVAC maintenance and converts it into $2.5 million a year. So that's a great one. I don't know that we've done episodes that's just specifically how to flip maintenance, but certainly wastenoday.com. You can find our episodes. You can find our boot camps, also Blue Collar Closer, which is our online training course. And you can get a hold of me on there. Shoot me an email. I'll answer any question.
Okay. And then the other thing, I'm assuming you've had episodes on, because like I said, everyone on this call is a leader, so they have tax. Some of you guys may still run calls yourself, of setting up training for success. Now you worked with a crew that, I mean, some of these guys are some of the biggest success stories in the trades, the Brent Buckleys and yourself, and you guys had a crew that was like a dynamo. So you guys had your own thing, but I think a lot of times, and some of you guys may feel this way, is that you have to maybe structure that with your team. You don't necessarily, maybe you do have someone that can take the lead on that you trust, but of how to structure some sort of, like, get the role play training. Because getting that culture of role play training, like we do it for our client success strategist and onboarding team.
You got 5 minutes, or does everybody have to bail?
I'm good for 5 if you guys are.
Give me, I just got 3 guys standing outside my door, so give me 5 minutes.
Okay. They're waiting. We're pausing them.
We implemented scripts for gratitude, and then we kind of already had it. We tweaked a little bit of the agreement portion, but we train on that each. Let's see, about 4 times a week in the morning, and it's just about 15 to 20
What does that
minutes
look like,
practice.
Luke? Like, is it just 7 a.m. to 7:30? Is that what you're doing in the beginning of the day, and you start every day that way, or how are you doing that?
So at 7:30, I have them give their numbers. We have a hype button. They give their numbers from the day before, and if it's a good day, they hype it up. And then I try to have a little bit of music so it's not boring and it drags. So I'll have a little bit of music in the background. Sometimes I have them stand up, but we'll practice features and benefits or our scripts for about 15 to 20 minutes. I have them printed off, and guys read them, and eventually, as they get better, they start actually having them memorized. And it's just, I think of it as getting reps in. But we print off a template, and then the guys can kind of tweak their own gratitude statement, or their pitch for this, or features and benefits, those type of things. But we have a list that we just kind of go off of just to make it consistent, and it works pretty well we can get guys up to par pretty quick that way. But his GoPro, and I've noticed though, like the gratitude portion of it, the G, you can watch his video and have your guy watch it, but it's kind of something that they have to really start implementing. You can't really force them to be grateful. So that one, but I've noticed once guys actually start doing that on each call, and they start getting some wins off of it and seeing how smooth the call goes when you start off showing the customer gratitude, sincere gratitude, and you have that as a habit, the calls just go so much smoother. It's a lot less aggressive and rude and customers. And so, but that's one, I haven't watched the video, but we have some more experienced guys that, will show really give their testimonies on how that works and how it's a good mindset. And that's a harder one to practice, I would say. But once guys actually kind of take a grip of it and make it a habit of being grateful, man, their calls go so much better. Everything's smoother. When someone sees that you're a legit, grateful for them, and that you really appreciate, the opportunity to serve them and take care of your family, it just hits harder, and they're more open to everything you say, because they see that you're a good person and you coming from a good place. So
I like that share. Chris asked if you would share some of that with her offline. I can connect you guys, email or whatever, on Facebook or something. But
Luke, have you taken sales training with Brian before? Is that how you knew this stuff, or did you kind of come up with this on your own, or from listening to the podcast, or what?
Yes, and yes. I've been a sales nerd for a while, but we've read the same books. And then once he opened up that school class is when I got to know he has very similar to other people, but good modifications. And I think he's the only one that's intentionally a gratitude statement. He's the only one I've seen with that. So his process, I think, it lines up a lot with the culture I want, because I think what he was talking about sharing with the mom and stuff, I think that's really high level service. I get really grumpy if I go to a place and they don't smile at me or speak with volume and aren't like the service level, in my opinion, on most of the younger generation has really gotten down. They mumble, they don't do eye contact and those type of things. And so I
You
think
know what's interesting about
being,
that though? So they're literally,
go
and I
ahead.
don't know if you guys have a Freddy's by you, or it's just in Arizona, but it's like 5 minutes from here. And every single young person that's there smiles, is so friendly, and like it's noticeable. Like it
That's awesome.
changes every time we go there. It just like
Yeah.
changes how we feel about the place, because
Yeah,
we're like, man,
totally.
everyone's so happy. They're smiling. Like you go to like McDonald's or whatever, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you want? It's
It's
kind
a
of
big
like
difference.
what you
And
get,
so
right?
being intentional about teaching your guys that once they grab on, man, it's a really high level of service. And long term, I think even if they don't buy everything right away, I think long term that they feel good about your company. So it's a great long term strategy, and it makes their home life better, because if they're going to do it with their customer, they're going to do it with their spouse as well and their kids. And so I really like Brian's tweak on that. I haven't heard other people stress gratitude that much. It's a
Keep
game
spitting,
changer.
Luke.
Good time to walk back and Brian.
Yeah.
What's
Sorry
up,
about
dude?
that. It's our enterprise truck leasing team. So got them going with our CFO for now. So we're good.
Awesome.
Believe me when I
Okay,
tell you, I'd
so-
rather be here.
Yeah, so
So
I
the
just want to get a couple
training,
more
yeah,
things
this is
out on the
it's a
training
great,
and like how
yeah,
you
that's a great,
structure role play and stuff like that, because
yep.
I want to give some tactical
Yeah, I got
take.
really lucky in my career in the early days, having been, like you said, put in that shark pit or whatever of, like, none of us were known then. Even Ken wasn't Ken back in 2004, but Lance was a hell of a mentor. He essentially created me and Brent Buckley and Phil Falasky and Ishmael's old VP of sales, Zachary. Is it Zachary England, I think? Like, all of us came from the same Lance Fernandez mentor for Ken Goodrich. And he had a way of convincing us that we could hit the things that we've now accomplished today and are going to accomplish in the future. He had a way of making us feel like we could. And that's the biggest thing you can do for someone. It's a million times better than giving them a process, right? Because, like, I train at people's shops several times a year, and they'll see their numbers go up quite a bit. And owners will tell me, I hear this so often, bro, that's the same thing I've been telling them for 5 years, but all of a sudden you tell them and it works. And it's like, it's most of the time, it's not the message. I think it's making guys understand that wherever you came from, it's either similar or not as bad as where Brian came from. And you're probably more educated than me. And I'm able to do what I've done. So that tells me, especially if I meet you and have a conversation with you, I'm like, bro, you're smarter than me. You're smarter than me. You have a higher IQ, right? You're better at communicating than me naturally. There's been a lot of money and years in training that went into me being able to communicate, because my natural bent is scared, fear-based, intimidated, don't trust anyone, don't trust this circumstance, and stay to myself and just turtle up and protect myself. So if you're not starting on that foot, you're way ahead of the game, right? So the biggest thing I think I do is what Lance did for me and so many other dudes, is make you believe you're freaking extremely capable of doing the things we talked about. And Brent Buckley made over $1 million. You're welcome, Lori. Over $1 million in commission several years in a row in an HVAC truck. And not only is he not smarter than you, he wasn't even the best role player in the room. Maybe not even top 3. If he can do it, most of us can do it. He's my boy. I talked to him yesterday. Congratulated him on the whole champions group thing that he still had a little equity in. So I think that the most important thing that we can do as leaders is not like a kind of whatever eye roll monotone one-off conversation where we're like, I believe in you, you're capable of this, but actually making them feel like we believe. As I say to my team all the time, like, there are 5 people in this room that are better salespeople than me. like that have the natural capacity to blow past any numbers I ever did. I even have one that's probably going to be a better sales trainer than me one day. And I fully believe that. I tell them that all the time. You're not there now, so have a seat and pipe down. But you will be there one day if you stay on the path and do all the things that those of us coming before you have done. And then you're so much younger, you'll have the opportunity to do much bigger in the future, right? So that's a big part of it. But training, structurally speaking, I think probably the biggest thing that most owners and managers can do, implement immediately, is a legit training schedule that's followed. So day one, when I got in here, I implemented Extreme Makeover Monday, presentation edition. So that's just me training on communication, presentation, sales, closing. And then Tuesday is PTSD Tuesday. Everybody knows what that's going to be, right? Role play. It's presentation, training, simulation day, PTSD. And we usually role play what we talked about on Monday. But then there are 5 or 6 games that we can implement in a heartbeat, in a pinch, if we don't have anything to role play. So if I'm just not going to be here Tuesday, Jason, you can pick up at any point and just do one of our role play games. And probably the best one to start, like if you guys were all at boot camp at the end of March with me and you're leaving to go back to your teams and you're like, where can we start? I would say the first thing you want to own is gratitude. So start with the gratitude gauntlet game. Gratitude gauntlet is me as the leader in the room. I'll go first. So I'll just I'll grab Siri. Let's say I can see 7 people. So I'll say, Siri, give me a number between 1 and 7. Number's 5, that's Josh. I'll say, Josh, come up front with me. Josh comes up front. We stand face to face. And I say, Josh, let me tell you some things I appreciate about you, bro. I really love having you as part of our team because fill in the blanks. Like, dude, you're always positive. You're always after it. One of these dudes who's you're posting your freaking workouts online and then you're posting business advice for free. This is something you sell, like marketing, but you're posting free advice on YouTube. And then you're back being a great husband with your wife. And then you're up in the morning motivating your team. And I like being around cats like that, man. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on a team with you. It means a lot to me, right? Now I don't have the tech do it back to me because that would feel a little self-serving. So I release that tech and I say, Siri, give me a number between 1 and 16. And it's 2. So number 2 comes up. And then give me a number between 1 and 16. And it's 14. So the guy in that seat comes up. And they have to do it to each other.
I like putting them on the spot.
Yeah, of genuine gratitude. And I don't care if you guys were beefing in the parking lot this morning. You just squashed it. It's grown-up time, like you would if you were at a client's house. So they have to do genuine gratitude. The whole room has to agree that we feel gratitude, and then they're done. And they get to pick their replacement until everyone in the room has gone. And that's just a role play game that can be done anytime by anyone. You don't need a manager in a room to do it, right? You just need an iPhone. So Siri can pick who's going next, right? So that's what Tuesday can look like. Another game, we have 17 objections on the whiteboard. And I'll say, Siri, give me a number between 1 and 17, and then give me a number between 1 and 16, and another one, and 2 texts come up, and they have to role play rebutting that objection on the spot. Another thing we can do at any time is any part of the GoPro system. So any one of these, request ownership or any of the 17 objections, at all times, we're ready to go on role playing these things. We have a bell sitting in the back. If someone says, bell goes, start over. If you use any of the fear words, contract, sign, buy, financing, I'm drawing a blank on what all they are right now, which is funny because I've done multiple episodes on this. But Tom Hopkins, they call him the godfather of selling. He has I think it got up to like 18, but I think in the home services, we've come up with like 32, 33 words that are proven to cause cortisol in someone's brain in a selling setting. Contract is one of them. Paperwork, agreement, whatever you want to call it. Don't call it a contract. Because you say contract and I start thinking about my attorney, right? So if you say one of those words, somebody hits the bell, ding, start over. And we go back and we get these things out. You have to, no hands in the pockets, no hands behind the back, no arms. You're showing your palms most of the time. So if I'm like, we have 3 options, you got to turn like this and actually show your palm as much. Option 1 would look like this, option 2 would look like this, option 3. And why? Because the more we show our palms, the more trustworthy we appear, right? The more we cover our jugular and look down, or cover up our vital organs with our forearms, or hide the palms of our hands in our pockets, the less trustworthy we appear subconsciously to the other party. Whether they know it on the surface or not, doesn't matter. If we're doing all these things that make us look like we're uncomfortable, in the other person's brain, we look untrustworthy, and they're going to hit us with, I need to think about it. Now they have a great reason for needing to think about it. So you're just like, no way it was me. That's just their process. They always go do an altar call at Trinity Church to make a big decision. So it has nothing to do with my presentation. But I'm telling you, if Brent Buckley was there today, they were buying today because he has all these things licked, right? And you are doing this thing where you won't show them your jugular and you cover your vital organs with your forearms and you don't even realize it, or you don't make eye contact with them when it's necessary, and you're uncomfortable. And I had a buddy named Nick in Detroit who got bit by a dog when he was, I don't know, like 5 or 6. He didn't have like any crazy disfiguring scars or anything, but it scared the crap out of him. So he was afraid of dogs. And when my brother and I would walk past this long gate with a chow behind it, the chow would bark and growl a little bit, but we could like get comfortable with him. We could even reach over and pet him. But if Nick was there, he'd be like biting the fence, like growling, trying to get at Nick. And we were always like, man, dude's right. Like dogs hate this cat. It's like crazy, right? And then later on, I realized, because it was all dogs, the challenge wasn't the dog hating Nick. It was Nick seeing a dog and doing this and freezing up and tensing up and getting all anxious. And the dog doesn't know what's up. The dog just thinks there's something wrong with you. I'm not going to trust you around me, my property, or my family that's back in the house. If you try to come over here, I'm going to bite you. There's just something up with you, and I don't know what it is. Are we any different? Only in that we won't bite a person. But something inside us tells us there's something up with this dude who won't look me in the eye and who's keeping his hands in his pockets. I don't know what it is, but this feels like a big decision to me right now, and I'm going to need to think it over. And it's all based on these nonverbal cues we're giving that are saying, I'm nervous. And the worst part is you are trustworthy. Our techs aren't out there lying to people, but they're uncomfortable in this situation. Doesn't make them liars or thieves. It just makes them uncomfortable in this situation. But the client's brain only reads discomfort, and there's a small percentage chance that that discomfort is because they're up to no good. So the client's going to err on the side of caution. So the reason all these things need to happen 200 times in a training room before they happen in front of a client is because we need to be so comfortable in the way more uncomfortable scenario of being in front of a bunch of judgmental D-bag technicians, right? Our peers who are making fun of us the whole time. And if we nail it there, like going to do it in the house for some dude who's never heard of GoPro, please, it's easy. So my palms can be out. I can be kind of leaned over the chair in the kitchen like this, wide open, just perfectly comfortable, not a care in the world, right? And this is what the main thing role play needs to do, is to get the anxiety out as we're learning the scripts. But if you go to a boot camp of mine, you realize like we just covered about 85% of the scripting. Like that's almost all of it. The rest of the time is spent stories, getting people to believe in selling and love the idea of being a professional salesperson, and then role playing like crazy. Everyone who's ever come to a Waste No Day boot camp has been up on stage role playing in front of 100 peers. I got some cool videos of, like, I'll just back up and let the 2 people role play at the mic, and I'll pull my phone out and video them. I don't post them, but like there's literally people standing there. one hand on the mic stand shaking. And then you see them 5 minutes later role playing cool as a cucumber. Nothing. Because they role play, they butcher it. I say, tap on the shoulder, hey, nice try. Here's some things we're going to add or subtract. And hey, man, you're cool. Remember how easy this looked when you were sitting in that chair? Yeah, I thought it was going to be nothing. But the feeling you have now with all the anxiety, yeah. Everybody else sitting in those chairs is going to feel the same way when they get up here. Believe me. And then they get through it, and on the way back down, they've got all these people clapping and then high-fiving them or fist bumping them on the way back to their seat, and they feel like $1,000,000, right? They feel so much more confident. And I went through the same thing at my first Tom Hopkins boot camp, which is why we called it the boot camp, as an homage to Tom Hopkins boot camp, which was the first off-site sales training I ever went to and got humiliated. So Extreme Makeover Monday, Presentation Edition, PTSD Tuesday, Role Play, Wiser Wednesday. That's our video call we do, webinar, winning insights, skills, and expertise for results. Wide open. Yeah, shoot me an email if you want to get access to Wiser Wednesday. It's free. We don't ask anything from you. We just add you to the calendar invite.
I would highly recommend it. I've watched some of those. They're very good.
Yeah, we got to get you on one too, bro. Actually, if I don't shoot you a text after this, just shoot me a text and remind me we got to get you on one coming up, especially for digital marketing stuff. We need to get better in the home at boosting our presence on social and Google. And I think you probably have some cool
Actually,
tricks.
some great ways that your text can help with that. I think it'd be a fun one to talk about. But we can.
Yeah, that's what I want. Wiser Wednesday is probably 80% technicians.
Because really, they're the best marketing force you guys have, if you think about it. Because if you guys are running your own calls, it's one thing. Like when you're small and you're running your own call, I'm not going to go too much into this, but if you're small and running your own calls as the owner, it's easy for you to turn that into a marketing piece because you heard the story, you got the story from the client, and you turned it into a social post, an email, and whatever. But your team, there's a lot of value inside of your guys' CRM and the notes and the summaries and the invoices and everything else in there. And with all the AI tools and stuff we have now, we're working on trying to put this together for you guys and make a better ecosystem with that. It's the scale part. Like if I did it for myself in one business, it's easy, but doing it for many, it's not quite as simple. But we're working on some of that stuff, so it should probably by the end of the quarter. But that's sort of stuff we can talk about, Brian. I'd love to. You're really talking about gratitude. Like this was fantastic. Like this is probably the easiest one for me. I barely had to do anything. I just sat here and learned and listened to you the whole time, which is fantastic.
I expect that reciprocated when you're on Wiser Wednesday. I'm just laying back.
Yeah, no, I love this. The recording will go out. We will transcribe it and then also put a summary together with an email for you guys. If you guys have other leaders or other team members, or you want to get this to some of your technicians, by all means, like, please share this. Don't just I think some of the worst thing that can happen is like you guys as the leaders and owners of a business, you get all this information and it's sitting right here and you're like, oh, why doesn't the team just do the things that I know you need to do? Share it with them. And whatever that looks like, get them on Wiser Wednesday calls, get them in the Waste No Day ecosystem and listen to somebody. I mean, he's got some of the best. I mean, you talk to some of the who's who in sales, these guys, the ones that are going to be rock stars, they will plug in and they will be the ones that can help you guys lead the charge as you guys continue to move forward with your business. So
all the guys we've talked about today have been on Wisers and will be on future. We even have Chris Voss's former hostage negotiator training team in the Black Swan group. They come on and do Wiser Wednesdays. And then the high level salespeople, obviously, and always trying to bring guests on that train the techs and train us as leaders and trainers as well. I mean, it's always the goal. So yeah, then Thursday is TED Talks. That's technical education with Daryl. That's our ops manager. And then Friday is the Role Play Olympics. We have guest judges come in every Friday, and all the techs take turns role playing whatever we're role playing that day. And we have 3 Olympic scorecards in the back, and the guest judge it. And this is like, we've had multiple techs bring their moms in, wives, girlfriends. Andy Elliott's Some of Andy Elliott's team has come in and judged role play Olympics, but it's mostly like family members, but these are legit clients, right? If you have somebody's mom come in to judge role play, you're bringing in an actual client, and we get things that weird things happen. Like Jack's mom, one of our techs, saw one of our techs, Eddie, role playing. She's like, "Ooh, yeah, no, that kind of made me feel icky." And it was like, "Oh, get out the pen," right? Because the last thing you ever want to do is make a homeowner feel icky by something you said that sounded natural to us, but felt like a sleazy sales tactic to her. Because if she feels it, all of our clients feel it, and none of them are ever going to tell us. So it's sneaky like that, right? So we get family and friends in to do guest judging on that, and whoever wins will get like a Chick-fil-A gift card, or we have a $50 the guy that cuts my hair, good dude over here in the Scottsdale Quarter.
I can take care of that for you, Brian. It's called razor.
I'm almost there. I'm almost at that point. Yeah, so we'll give
Bob knows what I'm talking about.
haircut coupons out, and yeah, something like that. So try to keep it light, keep it fun, keep it motivational and inspirational, but make sure that they're never coming into a training for nothing. They got to be leaving with some gold. Something I said to Ken many years ago. We had a couple trainers that would come in that came back, and this is what I always strive to never be as a presentation trainer. Is like, I'm like, bro, they were good and stuff. Like, I left the meeting feeling pumped up. My blood pressure was up. I was amped. Couldn't wait to get to my call. And I was about to knock on the door. And I thought, what tool do I have to close this call that I didn't have yesterday before I met that sales trainer? And I didn't have an answer for that question. I was motivated. I was pumped up, but I didn't have a single thing that made me more able to sell that call than I had the day before. So what was the point? Just to motivate us? We could have used a YouTube video, right? And and then he started saying, like, tell me the ones you get something out of and the ones that are just fluff. And it was like all of them were fluff. Like barely any of them actually brought real strategy. So I make sure that Mondays in particular, the main training day where I'm the only one talking, can't just be fluff. Right? We got to bring something. And something built in the field, not built in a lab, like so much sales training is these days. Something that actually is proven to work, not like whimsical, like, I feel like this would do well in the home. And I have those things, but I'll give them to like Logan Altman, who's a Sparky I trained, who's sold over 3 million the last 3 years, running like half maintenance calls. I'll give it to him and I'll say, run 10 calls and use this thing. And he'll call me back and go, I ran it on 4 and it was so opposite of like good that I'm not running it on the other 6. Or he'll go, I ran it on several calls and it was a little tough, but boy, by the time I got to 10, this got added to my presentation. I'm using it from here on out. And that will get added to the GoPro system. So like I said, field built, not lab built. Too many things sound good from behind the desk that just don't translate in the home.
Awesome. Brian, this has been fantastic. So just to recap, guys, we'll get this stuff out to you. I'm going to go through with my team and try to find some tactical episodes for you guys. If some of you guys, I know some of you guys, like Jason, I know you plug in Waste Today, Luke, and some of you guys, other guys might. So maybe you guys have already listened to them, but I'm going to try to find some really good episodes on some of the tactical things for you guys. And then if you guys want, Brian, can you put your email for the whoever they need to contact if they want to get added to Wiser Wednesdays? Can you put that down in the chat, and I'll make sure that my team grabs that, so that way we can send that out as well, because I'd love to get more people in your ecosystem and help all of the clients that we have just raise their team's game as well. Sweet. .net.
Yeah, I know. I have a .com for Waste No Day too, but I never used it, and I'm pretty inept when it comes to anything to do with technology. So yeah, I need a person.
You are not that dissimilar. You would actually like Brittany a lot. She is very much like you. I have to fix something on her computer at least 3 times a week.
Okay. Yeah.
So...
when I had Nate, my co-host, in the same building, nothing was ever a problem. But now that I don't have that, I'm like, it's a struggle. Yeah, but service and waste of that. Somebody from the team will get whatever you ask for, you'll get it, including just being added to the Wiser Wednesday list, info on boot camp, info on blue collar closer, info on an on-site. Blue collar closer is pretty sweet. It's 340 techs, salespeople, owners, managers in an online platform that's like a Facebook community almost, except it's in the school platform by Alex Hermosi. And you have the community where people are just hyping each other up 24 hours a day. You have the classroom. That's, I mean, what I just did here, but I don't know, 80 hours worth of training like that. And then you have 4 live calls a week. 2 of them are strictly role play, where techs and salespeople just get in there and role play the GoPro system together. And then 1 is a Q&A where I just do Q&A on Thursday evenings. And then 1's Wiser Wednesday. So, and then you also have access to the full, probably over 100 hours of Wiser Wednesday catalog, where we edited them down for length, and then dropped them in the group. So that's available as well.
Okay. Awesome. We'll make sure that that stuff gets put in the email, and we'll get the recording out to you guys. Nadine's at the wet show and she handles a lot of that for me. So it'll be like Monday or Tuesday next week. She'll get this to all of you guys. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Brian, wealth of knowledge. Like, this was great. It was awesome for me to learn, because it's been a while since I've been on like the sales training side for the trades and stuff. So it's good,
the fun
good
part.
refresher, and I learned several things myself. So it's fantastic. So I don't remember who we're having next month yet, but we will get that information out to you too. I'm clearly not the schedule guy. I'm just the one that shows up and does this, but I will get that out to you guys, because we do these every month, bringing in different people, thought leaders, like people to talk about all the other things that come with running a business, because you guys get inundated on Facebook from myself and others of marketing tactics, but there's a lot more to running a business than just marketing. So I want to make sure that we bring people that can really help you guys with that stuff too. So until next month, I will see you guys all then.
All right. Appreciate you guys' time. Thanks for having me on,
See
Josh.
you, Brian.
Brian, I'll
See you,
text
Josh.
you.
All right,
Thanks,
see you
guys.
guys.
There you go.